First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yashai, Bashem Rakal Kadosh, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth. And a shout out to Yakim that's out there on the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Well, here's further escalation. Everybody knows, even AMTV did a report about it, which we'll look into that a little bit, that pretty much all this stalls and talks with North Korea, Kim Jong-un, were all distractions because they really want their war with Iran, which is why, taking Syria, attacking Yemen, and all these proxies of Iran, because when the Islamic Shalom, I guess I don't have that video clip anymore, but I'm just going to go ahead and play the other things that's going on. This is dealing with, the Northern Kingdom.
These child actors weeping and crying on all the other networks 24/7 right now.
Bueno, aquí tenemos una orquesta.
How do you deal with liars? Honestly, how do you deal with actual liars? Earlier this week, the DHS secretary tweeted that this administration doesn't have a policy of separating children at the border. This is a lie. A bold-faced lie. Here's a highlight reel of videos confirming that it's a lie. And this is what the government saw fit to release. They don't care that these are concentration camps. They want you to know because it's a deterrent.
Our Department of Homeland Security personnel going to separate the children from their moms and dads.
Yes, I am considering, in order to deter more movement along this terribly dangerous network, I am considering exactly that.
This is John Kelly a year ago when he was the Department of Homeland Security Secretary. Now, John Kelly's opinion on cruel and racist policies hasn't changed over the course of a year, just like my dedication to calling those who dare steal video game valor on my Instagram and Twitch. Video gaming is service, and you should thank me for it. But what did change is how we treat liars. It used to be that when you were caught red-handed in a lie, you had to own up to the fact that you lied. But not in 2018, baby. Just double the down. Or move the goalposts and claim that the law has always been that way, that you can seek asylum, but just at a port of entry.
This administration has a simple message. If you cross the border illegally, we will prosecute you. If you are seeking asylum, go to a port of entry.
Which are ports of entry where we still separate families, mind you, because maybe they're not actually families. Maybe they are super immigrant babies coming to kill us all, or maybe they're just crisis actors?
Do not fall for it, Mr. President. These kids are being
I'm so sorry, we have to go.
They're given scripts to read by liberals.
Now listen here, you bag of fermented horse. If you're gonna defend white supremacy on national television, the least you can do is give us a new take. You already wrote a book about how the 9/11 victims were crisis actors. And another piece of bullshit that I love is, Obama did this too, but no one talked about it. Which is partially true when you talk about mainstream media, but it doesn't change the main point that this is still bad. Also, how come Trump made it a signature promise to dismantle everything Obama did, but then decided to keep this Obama-era policy? Maybe it's not about Obama at all, but about coddling some Americans who feel threatened that immigrants are coming to take their jobs. They took our jobs! But just for the record, just so there's no confusion here, the current government policy is to separate children from their families at the border as a deterrent for future immigration. That's what it is. That's what's happening. And now we have detention facilities lining the border that are prisons for children. And Republicans actually like this policy, but they don't want to come across as offensive and inhumane, even though these policies are offensive and inhumane. And Republicans know that they're inhumane. That's why they're desperately throwing any excuse they can come up with against the wall to see what might stick to shield them from having to admit how draconian and inhumane what they're doing is.
If you are smuggling a child, then we will prosecute you, and that child may be separated from you as required by law.
You put the policy together, my guy. You have all the power in the world to decide whether to exercise it or not. So how do you deal with someone who approaches you from this angle? Well, you deal with it by sharing this video, and then you deal with it by holding the government accountable and by demanding your representatives make change.
As if that does you any bit of good, And so, what can I say? I can't iterate it enough. As the first part of this, I already said it, that judgment begins with the house of Israel. And so the northern kingdom gets judged usually before the southern kingdom is, it always has been. And so that's what's happening now, and so, this whole Democrat versus Republican, all this is, horse shit anyways. There is no such thing. They're all the same people. Esau, the so-called white man, Edomites. And so, this Edomite supremacy, fuck, man, it doesn't matter. They just want you to believe there's a left and a right. There isn't. Esau controls it all. Of course, thanks to Brother Malcolm for bringing this out. Here's another guy that it's kind of like X-22 Report, but has his own take on everything. Well, he's going to give you the scoop on what's going on, because, of course, they don't want to talk about this in the sewer stream, mainstream Zionist-run media, right? So here's what's going on.
Apologies for my absence. I've been dealing with some pretty intense manipulation or potentially, glitches, however you want to look at it. I actually had a show completely done and ready to go up yesterday. But, long story short, from issues with the internet to the file simply just disappearing, I no longer have the show to share with you. So it's interesting to see how these things continue to increase. One thing which I'll touch on today in general is just intense increase in censorship and suppression of exactly this kind of forum. Speaking truth, questioning the establishment narrative, even going back to my interview I just conducted with Vanessa Beeley, having issues simply being able to upload the file on YouTube or other type of mediums where we're trying to share the content. On a side note, I highly recommend you check out the interview I just did with Vanessa Beeley. It was, she's fantastic as always and drops a lot of great information for what's going on around the world, not just inside the United States, but things that are being done as in our names around the world through the United States. But in general, been dealing with that kind of manipulation. So apologies for my couple-day absence here. It was quite frustrating yesterday because I had a lot of great information that I dropped that really just kind of lost into the ether. So I'll continue. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to go over today, a lot of which I'm just going to quickly touch over because I'm trying to include the things that I missed from the other show as well as stuff that I want to talk about today. But I'll try to keep it around the same time frame. But a lot of the points yesterday were revolving around the kind of just extreme, all-encompassing immigration topics that were being forced into our consciousness, as well as the FBI IG report, which I've constantly pointed out is simply, it's a very important, very real thing for us to be involved in, for us to be talking about, but is clearly seems to be continued to come up, but yet nothing ever comes of it. Simply, really just watching the opening statement during the congressional hearing, it's pretty profound to watch how all the information that comes out and how blatantly obvious it is that Comey lied about what happened, how Clinton got special treatment. And, this shouldn't be taken as a partisan concept either. Trump, in my eyes, is just as guilty in a lot of ways. But this specific topic is so obvious, is so just blatantly on one side showing us that there's been a criminal act here. Yet for some reason, obviously there needs to be an investigation, but it's just pretty absurd to see how clear it is. And you can even see that from some of the Congress members and how just kind of flabbergasted they are. This is even being discussed still, but yet it is. So that's kind of where my mind goes with this, is it always seems to be just this ongoing investigation that never really yields any results.
And this is all just stall time.
Literally using the strife of these children, often lying about it, just embellishing it, or just completely, bending the narrative to support one argument or the other to achieve a political end, which is just horrific. People like Rachel Maddow crying on their show about something, discussing children in cages and how they're being forced from their families, yet knowing that this happened well before Trump was in office, whether or not he intensified it. Meanwhile, we have hundreds of thousands of children dying all around the world due to the warmongering policies that she clearly supports, yet crying on air about this one small topic. Again, admittedly an important topic, but when you look at the larger picture, it's just disgustingly hypocritical and very obvious, as Daniel McAdams on Ron Paul's show just recently called them crocodile tears, which I completely agree with. And we've seen this all before. We've seen Obama cry. We've seen all these different politicians stand up and give you this sad effort just to make you emotionally react, like I've said so many times. But a lot of that was going on yesterday and still today, and it's just important for us to see through this. Lou Kradowski did a great video talking about this, and I'll put that in the show notes for you to check out, which really just shows you a lot of and very clear points where people are using fake pictures, knowingly fake incendiary pictures of like fake stage protests, but cropping them so it looks like it's something that it's not, or using pictures.
Yeah, like the Syrian Arab Army and shit, but,
One of the large ones, as we always point out, is resources. Very mineral rich, and they're even openly talked out about saying they're going to start mining resources from Afghanistan to kind of counterbalance the cost they put into destroying the country, I guess. Very, very revealing. And it's also important to note that there are more extremists in Afghanistan today than when we first started the war, or rather the United States first started the war.
Yeah, the war of terror.
So not only, again, as the point that I always make, even if their intentions were good, they're clearly failing after 7. And it's also so interesting to see this happen. It has to be pretty damn obvious what they're trying to cover up, because all this stuff's getting out, and the fact that they're shooting down journalists when they try to film what's going on. Pretty obvious. That's an important one for us to keep track on and really speak out about, because they're just pretty much trying to shut down the conversation, just like this concepts of labeling any kind of discussion of anything negative Israel as anti-Semitism, which is just, it's nonsense. That's not what that term even means. It's not about the state of Israel, right? I mean, we've talked about this many times over.
Ashdod, if you will.
Now, after all that, on to the ones from today, and there's only a few ones I want to get into, but some very important topics, one of which relates right back to the original topic, but really it's an article from the freethoughtproject.com that really gives you an insight not just to how there's other aspects to this immigration thing that is very important that gets overlooked by the children.
Well, anyhow, you can see Esau's fucking with the video feed, so I'm just going on something else.
1.7K shares share this story as the Trump administration continues its inhumane and unilateral zero-tolerance policy initiative of tearing apart children and their parents seeking legal asylum at the border. The president showed his hand this morning in a vile tweet. For his ongoing campaign to dehumanize immigrants, Trump referred to those fleeing persecution, or even death in their own countries, as an infestation of our country, likening them to vermin.
Esau's shown his true colors to Trump.
They don't care about crime and want illegal immigrants, no matter how bad they may be, to pour into and infest our country, like MS-13, or even death. They can't win on their terrible policies, so they view them as potential voters. Donald J. Trump, at Riald and Aldrum, June 19, 2018. This is, of course, not the first time that Trump has used such rhetoric to describe immigrants. He recently referred to them as animals during a meeting at the White House. California Lieutenant Governor and current frontrunner to become the next governor Gavin Newsom took to Twitter to call him out for his shamefully obvious campaign. Infest animals, the president continues to choose words that dehumanize immigrants.
And it's just showing you what Esau thinks about us. The fact is, though, is that he's a fucking animal. He's the one that fucking came over here and slaughtered our people, the tribe of Gad in particularly, but slaughtered all the tribes. And, fucking made deals, did not keep them, and just slaughtered us, because, we took Esau for his word, and his word is shit, man. Any deal with this so-called devil, is going to not be a good one. Look at what just happened with the Iran deal, They should know the devil that they deal with very well, because, of course, like everything else, so all these nations took part in that. They took part in, hiding the truth that we were the Hebrew Israelites, blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, and confusion of faces. They didn't want us to know that, but nonetheless, though, they cannot stop the prophecy. This being the year of prophecy, we're seeing this devil already move, so, it's a good possibility that everything could come to a halt by 2019. So I hope this has been edifying. Sorry I didn't have any scriptures, but time run out. 15 minutes only.